It's been
It's
non-stop
all,
for you. It seems like it's been absolutely non-stop.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's all great, but deeply weird. Particularly the last few days, and like now there's been sort of preview screenings going on around the country, so I'm not on Twitter, but I have to confess I've sort of like looked at a few of the things, and just suddenly having so many people see it at the same time, you're like, oh, it's not my private thing anymore.
Congrats on the film.
Thank you.
You don't need me to tell you how good it is. I've already told you. Lots of people have told you how good it is.
Stop.
So, but this is a silly fact, right? I saw it and I checked my Instagram today a year ago yesterday.
At LFF.
At LFF on a Sunday morning.
Oh, it's a good one to watch on a Sunday morning, I think, hopefully.
Yeah,
but
well,
yeah,
it's strange. I didn't take a punt on it. I read the synopsis in the brochure and I was like, oh, because I usually do the premieres, so I don't usually get to all the screenings all the time. So I had like a few hours to fill, so I wanted to see something.
Yeah.
I'd seen that. I read the synopsis of this and I was like, yeah, let's go. That's a good Sunday morning film.
I can't help think that, to be honest, that's the best way to watch it. I mean, inevitably, I think most films are probably better to go into knowing as little as possible about. So obviously there's the purist in me sort of with all these like trailers and reviews and stuff coming up being like, no, but don't say too much. Like, it was just want to keep expectations low and then hopefully nice surprises.
We'll go the other way,
yeah. That's always the nicest feeling, because otherwise people are like, and you're like, all right then, show it. Anyway.
So how is this is, I guess, a strange experience for you, because obviously you premiered the film last year and obviously a lot of things got taken out of your hands in terms of what's happened in 2020. So has it, I mean, it must be a strange experience promoting a film that you've made anyway, let alone the fact that it's been over a year of promotion and doing different festivals. Has that been fun, or has it been tiring, or is it a bit of both?
Bit of both. I mean, we haven't been doing it the whole year. I guess there was sort of like a big dollop of it when we had our festival run and sort of from Toronto to LFF. And then, originally we were going to be coming out in sort of May in US and April here, I think, just before lockdown. So obviously there was a lot of stuff around then and it all started ramping up and doing a lot of this kind of thing. And I think I was more nervous back then. I was like really freaking out about it a little bit. But then like a few days before we were meant to go to America, lockdown happened. And I just kind of found that nothing puts your problems in perspective like a global pandemic. So just kind of being like, oh no, my film, I can't go and do the promotion. Like, it's just like, it doesn't matter. So now that it's finally coming out now, in a way, it's so nice to finally get it out that I'm not quite as nervous as I was before. In a way, I'm just like, just get it out there. Kind of thing.
Was that a good, do you think that's been beneficial though, that you started with a kind of festival platform for the film? And
I mean, totally. That's where all our kind of like sales stuff happened. You know, like A24 and Studio Canal and Sony. Like, you know, the distributors, they all picked the film up in Toronto, which is where we had our premiere, and that's obviously the first time you see it with an audience. I mean, one of the main things I'm like grateful for in light of all of the pandemic stuff and how it's changing cinema is how, I mean, one, that we're getting a theatrical run now, which is so exciting, but also the fact that before, with the festival circuit, you know, we got to enjoy that with packed, non-socially distanced audiences, which is very fun. And I'm sort of lucky that you know, I know a lot of filmmakers who had, you know, were going to have their film premiered at festivals which either got cancelled or then suddenly it's on a streamer on a link instead of in a theatre. So as far as making and releasing a film in this time goes, I feel like we're having about as charmed an experience as possible. So I'm sort of feeling very lucky.
Yeah, people are very excited to see it, even more so now, because I think a couple of days ago when the new news filtered through about what was happening with Cineworld, I think a lot of people thought they weren't going to get to see it, but they have been able to see it, which is great, because I guess it's, you know, your film is, you know, it would play in a Cineworld, but it'd be playing in the normal circumstances. It'd be playing,
I know,
Black Widow and Bond and all these other.
Now there's nothing, so it's kind of, I mean, not nothing, but you know, the big ones anyway. So it's like now all these kind of like more indie films are kind of like, hey, how's it going? But yeah, I mean, obviously it's really sad about the Cineworld Picture House stuff, and yeah, we would have been in those if it had gone ahead. But yeah, they've had I think all the Unlimited members have been able to have like preview screenings this week before Cineworld closes, which, so, you know, maybe a few more than would have done otherwise are rushing to take advantage before they close. So I don't know, trying to focus on the positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that, as you say, not many people are getting their films released at the moment. It's a very, very, all these,
I mean,
in lockdown that have just not had the same, you know,
it's completely unprecedented, like sort of how this, I was half I mean, not that anyone like said it to me, but I was just sort of half assuming during the middle of lockdown that, I guess like everything's just going to be on VOD now, whatever. So no, I'm really excited it's going to be in cinemas.
Yeah, it is something to see on the big screen. I've keep telling people that, because
Thank you.
my experience of it was that it's hard to replicate for a lot. It's the same for a lot of films. You know, I spoke to a lot of filmmakers over lockdown about how you can tell they're slightly frustrated because they don't have that experience because of what's happening. But
Yeah.
this film, particularly for me, the experience of watching on the big screen was just immense. So you must be happy that that's happening. Would
Totally.
you have been opposed to the VOD, or was it something that you as best you could get it into as a cinema, even if it was a cinema?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you ask any director that question, they'll kind of always say, if you can see it in the cinema, that's incredible, because that's the sort of what we all kind of get in it for, in a way. I mean, I would say I do feel like horrors and comedies particularly, which are not that more than outright comedy or anything, but to me, like those sort of genres, I kind of feel are particularly great in cinemas, just the sort of communal experience. And also the sort of involuntary reactions of laughing and sort of jumping or screaming are just that bit more, I don't know, it's like an enjoyable collective thing. But I have noticed also that there's a sort of a reaction with jump scares that you don't get when you watch them at home. Because generally, like sort of some of the scares in Maud, if it lands and it works and everybody kind of jumps, there's then this second reaction where everybody then laughs at the fact that everybody in the cinema has jumped. Obviously, if you're just doing that by yourself at home, you just jump and you sort of, I don't know, just think it's more fun.
Yeah, and there is I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but there is a moment, and you probably know which moment I'm referring to.
Yeah.
In the, shall we say, the second half of the film.
Indeed, yes.
That the experience of watching it with an audience was exactly like that. That you can't replicate that reaction to.
Yeah, it's like a double thing that happens.
Yeah, you get the sheer kind of, oh my god, you get everyone going, oh, everyone laughed at, everyone got shocked.
I love an awkward, nervous laugh. Is worked out.
I'm so glad people get to see, I mean, the film obviously, but yeah, that particular moment at the screening that I was at was one of those moments where you just, that community feeling where everyone was just like, okay, there we go. So anyway, St. Maud, I mean, this is your first feature film. I mean, where did the idea come from? Was it an idea that you've had for a long time, and did it take a long time for you to kind of get it off the ground?
I still never have a good concise answer. I started coming up with the idea, I think, when I finished film school, which was sort of 2014. And I suppose the story's sort of just been constantly, like, there was another 2 years following that before I actually officially got it in development and was writing the script. But during that time, the story kept changing. Initially, the initial premise, like at the very beginning when I had nothing else, was just, young woman hears the voice of God in her head and falls in love with him. And I thought, and initially the sort of thing that attracted me to it was wanting to set a film entirely inside a woman's head, where the second lead character basically is just a voice. It's a little bit more like her, the Spike Jonze film. But then I sort of developed it a bit more, and it started feeling a bit gimmicky, and I started to wonder a bit more about her relationship with the Amanda character, and then long waffy stuff. Story changed a lot, and then about 4 years, I think, from coming up with it to shooting was maybe like 4 years. Obviously doing other stuff in between and some stuff. I don't know.
And how, I mean, when you wrote the character of Maud, I mean, how easy did your job become when you found Morfydd? Because I can imagine that was, as most people will say about how important casting is, but for this particular role, I can imagine that helped you immensely, knowing that you had someone like her that was going to do eventually what she does do in the film.
Yeah, I mean, Morfydd's phenomenal, and obviously brought a huge amount to the character. And like, when you're writing stuff, it's a bit easy to kind of be like, oh, I've created these really three-dimensional characters, they're so real and whatever. But then when you actually see an actor performing it and doing it properly, then you're kind of like, yes, no, what I'd written was just kind of like the basics, I guess. I mean, we cast her. Most of it I was writing before we cast her. I think we did. By the time we cast her, maybe it was still several months before we shot the film. And definitely then kind of, it's great having the right person's face in your head. So finalizing the script, I'm sure I tweaked some stuff, but yeah, I was hoping when I was writing it, I was like, I feel like both of these would be fun characters for actors to play. And I think particularly because Maud, like both of them, but Maud especially, is very contradictory character. I like unreliable narrators and protagonists that you can't quite trust, and who are sort of neurotic, and she's got a kind of mixture of like arrogance and self-loathing, and is at once very self-involved but completely unself-aware in terms of like how she comes across to other people. And I think that, I don't know, so you know, real characters who have all the messy stuff and flaws, and you know, she's not just kind of some, you know, sweet, pious little sort of victim kind of person. She is complex and messy, which Morfydd is great at bringing all that out and making it seem very effortless. I think that's maybe one thing particularly about both her and Jennifer, like their sort of performance styles are very natural and effortless in a film which is often quite kind of heightened and even a bit sort of campy and theatrical in places, and you know, borderline ridiculous maybe, but I don't think it would work if it wasn't grounded in two really like natural, convincing performances. Like some like really ridiculous lines that I sort of realized they managed to make sound very throwaway, but then you actually read it and it's like and more of this really, and they're both and again, like they're both really funny. I think they've got like really good, it's not like a comedy, but it was important to me that I find actors who can sort of bring out the playfulness and sort of unknowing humor of both people.
Yeah, I was interested about what the impact on was it always set in the seaside town that you set it in? Because obviously I imagine you could have quite easily set this in a city or anything else, but almost feels like adds another dimension to the film. I just wondered whether that was a choice on purpose to kind of alienate them, I guess, and have them distracted from detached is the word I'm looking for, from like, you know, so you set it in the central of London or something like that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it wasn't specifically set in Scarborough, which is the town that we did film eventually, but it was always set in an English seaside town. I think in the beginning I was kind of picturing Hastings, just because it was somewhere I was a bit more familiar with. I'm from Essex, but I've got friends from Hastings. But that didn't quite have what we needed practically. So we did like a sort of a whole recce around loads of different UK seaside towns, which was really fun. And Scarborough just seemed to have the right blend of everything we need. And yeah, pretty much the sort of reason that you're saying behind choosing a seaside town, it sort of puts the film and world in its own little kind of bubble, and seaside towns often feel a bit like that, slightly timeless, slightly forgotten, you know, being at water, at the edge of things, elemental. And yeah, kind of, I felt like it's Scarborough just particularly just looks, I just think it looks amazing on camera, a lot of the seafront and stuff. And yeah, the whole film I want to be kind of like sort of stylized and quite heightened and vivid, and it's just got a really great look to it.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a boring answer, but yeah.
No, that's cool. It's cool.
Warped fairy tale kind of slant, I think, is something.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes, exactly.
Lightly.
And obviously now you're releasing it. And obviously you've had not a year per se, but you've had a lot of time for people to see the movie and get a bit of buzz going and stuff like that. How do you feel about the comparisons? Because there's a lot of people comparing it to various different films over the years. It's not just one thing. You know, some horror films come out and they say, "Oh, it's the new Exorcist," and "Oh, it's the new Rosemary's Baby." When you've had lots of varied reactions and lots of different people saying, "Oh, it's like this." Oh no, I took a bit.
She's nicking stuff from all over the place. Yeah. No, it's. I mean, everyone does it when you watch films, and probably all films and all kinds of art. You're always kind of feeding and influenced by lots of other things, often things that you're not even aware of. So like the Carrie and Exorcist things. I mean, obviously, just first and foremost, it's kind of crazy and ridiculous and very flattering to have the film compared to those movies. I'm not saying that, but specifically those ones, I wasn't consciously thinking of either of them at all when I was writing them. I don't think I'd seen them since I was a teenager, probably. Although obviously when people point out like the particular imagery where it's like, oh yes, that is a bit similar. Yes, more it does look a bit like Carrie. Like I get it, and that's really cool. But I was more, yeah, I mean, I've said it in sort of interviews and stuff before, but that, you know, tonally, you know, I'm a big Rosemary's Baby and Repulsion fan, and, you know, Bergman and all these quite kind of stylized, claustrophobic, psychodrama, thriller kind of things. So if people pick up on those and think the same, great. I hope it still sort of stands as its own thing. But yeah, it's only nice to be compared to films that you really like and respect. So
yeah,
cool.
Have you seen the new TV spot that's just come out where some of the reactions are? So there's one that has as usual the critics kind of reaction, but it's very kind of, it's like 2 words, and a lot of them are, forgive me for saying this, one of them says fucking hell, and the other one just says,
oh yeah, they're just like, fuck.
I don't think I've seen that before, where they've been so not blasé with rudeness, but it sums up people's reactions to the movie, where a lot of critics have just haven't gone, oh, it's a wonderful piece, like
yeah, they're just like, oh.
One of them just says "Holy shit," and I was like, "That's
Great.
great! I love that from a critic's point of view."
Well, I'm glad because it's no, totally,
see.
and I'm glad to get it out there because it like because the film is a bit of an odd one tonally, and I know that I don't know, particularly sort of when you hear the sort of synopsis, maybe, or maybe I'm just not, but particularly in development, you know, I had to sort of keep persuading people that it would be sort of like fun and cinematic and like, you know, hopefully just fun movies to go out to the cinema and watch. But I don't know, it sounds a bit like sort of trying to have your cake and eat it, but sort of keep it interesting, but also satisfying that kind of level. I don't know. It's I don't know. I've wanted to sort of make a movie since I was about, well, really small. And I think basically you put sort of like so much pressure on like it feels so uncertain that it's ever going to happen. And then it's like you finally get a chance to actually do one. So like you're just like, I don't want to waste a single moment on screen. You just kind of like shove everything into it. So it's probably just maybe it's a slightly first filmmaker thing of just being like, oh, everything. Like I don't know, good basically. Yes, that's nice. I like those too.
Yeah, and just as a final question, then obviously this is the first one. Have you been able to use lockdown to maybe start a second one, or you kind of taking a little bit of a time before you tackle?
No, I'm writing a couple of things, and yeah, basically thought I'd do like a rom-com next. So
is that true?
Kind of.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. Hey, well, some filmmakers, you know, they do a movie like this, and then they jump to a massive Marvel movie as their second film. You know, it's
any day now. No,
any day.
Not that. I'll do this first. Yeah, no, I've been getting on with writing sort of slowly but surely. I mean, I've one of them I'd love to shoot next year, but who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Well, I love the movie, and I can't wait to see it again because it's been a year since I've seen it, which is really weird. Thank you so much for all your time over the last couple of days, and
my pleasure.
Yeah, good luck with it, and hopefully see you on the other side, as it were.
Oh, goodbye. Thank you so much. See ya. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey,